Good evening. I'm Robert MacNeil in Washington.
And I'm Jim Lehrer, also in Washington for this presidential inauguration day. We have the full story of the day with tape excerpts of the events, plus analysis of Bill Clinton's beginning and George Bush's ending.
Funding for the MacNeil Lehrer NewsHour has been provided by PepsiCo. PepsiCo. Part of helping the world live and communicate better is keeping it well informed. That's why funding for the NewsHour is also provided by AT&T and by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and viewers like you.
We devote the entire program tonight to the inauguration of Bill Clinton as the 42nd President of the United States. The simple 36-word oath has ushered in a new era of political leadership, the transfer of power signaling not only a change in parties, but a change in generations. We'll look at the day, the Clinton message to the country, and finally, the Bush legacy. We'll hear from Gergen and Shields, plus Bill Sapphire, Peggy Noonan, Elizabeth Drew, and Bernice Reagan. But first, Kwame Holman has a comprehensive and detailed look at today's events.
Like presidents-elect before him, Bill Clinton chose to begin his inaugural day with a religious service. But Clinton selected a non-traditional church, Metropolitan African Methodist Episcopal in downtown Washington, for the first inaugural service at a predominantly black church. The Clintons arrived a few minutes into the multi-denominational and very musical program.
In this beautiful and awesome sanctuary, faith groups of many diverse creeds gather with leaders of our nation to face a challenge. How might we achieve reunion? We who have wandered off in so many diverse directions, disunified. We who have been dispersed and separated into so many competing factions.
Clinton, who had appeared visibly moved, emerged from the church and remarked to a friend that the service was, in his word, awesome. By mid-morning, the inaugural focus had shifted to the Clintons' future home. Vice President and Mrs. Quayle were among the first to arrive at the White House. Congressional leaders responsible for the inauguration arrived in separate limousines. The event was Coffee in the Blue Room, hosted by the Bushes. But at the same time at Blair House, the president-elect seemed to be having trouble keeping himself and his family to the meticulously drawn-up, almost minute-by-minute schedule.
Come on, Chelsea. Let's go. We gotta go. Chelsea, don't we just send somebody to get it? Come on, please. Where is it? Okay.
Finally on their way, the Clintons rode the half-block to the White House. They were greeted by the President and Mrs. Bush and dog Millie.
Welcome, welcome. Welcome to your new house.
me, listen. It's a confidential letter. I'd like to take this opportunity to wish him all the best in Jackson.
Here we go. How about a picture?
Girls, good luck to you.
Coffee at the White House lasted about 20 minutes. Meanwhile, Capitol Hill was abuzz with activity. The swearing-in of the 42nd President of the United States was an hour away. George Bush emerged from the White House for his final time as president. The president-elect and the president followed tradition, riding together to the Capitol for the swearing-in. The president had a smile and a thumbs up for his departing White House staff. Then began the 1.5-mile motorcade along spectator-filled Pennsylvania Avenue to the Capitol.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President-elect, William Jefferson Clinton.
Albert Gore Jr. was sworn in first by Supreme Court Justice Byron White.
The duties of the office on which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
And I know you will, Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. Justice.
After songs by Marilyn Horne and the Marine Corps Band, Bill Clinton took the oath of office just before noon.
Will you please raise your right hand and repeat after me? I, William Jefferson Clinton, do solemnly swear
I, William Jefferson Clinton, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States
that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States
and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
My fellow citizens, today we celebrate the mystery of American renewal. This ceremony is held in the depth of winter, but by the words we speak and the faces we show the world, we force the spring. A spring reborn in the world's oldest democracy that brings forth the vision and courage to reinvent America. To renew America, we must revitalize our democracy. This beautiful Capitol like every capital since the dawn of civilization, is often a place of intrigue and calculation. Powerful people maneuver for position and worry endlessly about who is in and who is out, who is up and who is down, forgetting those people whose toil and sweat sends us here and pays our way. Americans deserve better. And in this city today, there are people who want to do better. And so I say to all of you here, let us resolve to reform our politics so that power and privilege no longer shout down the voice of the people. Let us put aside personal advantage so that we can feel the pain and see the promise of America. Let us resolve to make our government a place for what Franklin Roosevelt called bold, persistent experimentation, a government for our tomorrows, not our yesterdays. Let us give this capital back to the people to whom it belongs. Today, as an old order passes, the new world is more free but less stable. Communism's collapse has called forth old animosities and new dangers. Clearly, America must continue to lead the world we did so much to make. While America rebuilds at home, we will not shrink from the challenges nor fail to seize the opportunities of this new world. Together with our friends and allies, we will work to shape change lest it engulf us. When our vital interests are challenged or the will and conscience of the international community is defied, we will act. With peaceful diplomacy whenever possible, with force when necessary. The brave Americans serving our nation today in the Persian Gulf, in Somalia, and wherever else they stand are testament to our resolve. But our greatest strength is the power of our ideas, which are still new in many lands. Across the world, we see them embraced and we rejoice. Our hopes, our hearts, our hands are with those on every continent who are building democracy and freedom. Their cause is America's cause. The American people have summoned the change we celebrate today. You have raised your voices in an unmistakable chorus. You have cast your votes in historic numbers, and you have changed the face of Congress, the presidency, and the political process itself. Yes, you, my fellow Americans, have forced the spring. Now we must do the work the season demands. To that work I now turn with all the authority of my office. I ask the Congress to join with me. But no president, no Congress, no government can undertake this mission alone. My fellow Americans, you too must play your part in our renewal. I challenge a new generation of young Americans to a season of service, to act on your idealism by helping troubled children, keeping company with those in need, reconnecting our torn communities. There is so much to be done. Enough indeed for millions of others who are still young in spirit to give of themselves in service too. In serving, we recognize a simple but powerful truth. We need each other, and we must care for one another. Today, we do more than celebrate America. We rededicate ourselves to the very idea of America. An idea born in revolution and renewed through 2 centuries of challenge. An idea tempered by the knowledge that but for fate, we, the fortunate and the unfortunate, might have been each other. An idea ennobled by the faith that our nation can summon from its myriad diversity the deepest measure of unity. An idea infused with the conviction that America's long, heroic journey must go forever upward. And so, my fellow Americans, as we stand at the edge of the 21st century, let us begin anew with energy and hope, with faith and discipline. And let us work until our work is done. The Scripture says, and let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. From this joyful mountaintop of celebration, we hear a call to service in the valley. We have heard the trumpets. We have changed the guard. And now, each in our own way, and with God's help, we must answer the call. Thank you, and God bless you all.
As impressive as Clinton's speech was a poem by Maya Angelou, On the Pulse of Morning. At Clinton's request, she became the first official inaugural poet since Robert Frost at John F. Kennedy's inauguration.
Here, on the pulse of this fine day, you may have the courage to look up and out and upon me, the rock, the river, the tree, your country, no less to Midas than the mendicant, no less to you now than the mastodon then. Here, on the pulse of this new day, you may have the grace to look up and out and into your sister's eyes and into your brother's face, your country, and say simply, very simply, with hope, good morning.
Clinton's first hours after becoming president were as busy as the ones before. He bade a gracious farewell to George and Barbara Bush. Following the Bush's departure, he signed his first presidential orders, setting his ethics rules for executive branch officials and documents officially nominating his 19 cabinet-level appointees. He also proclaimed January 22nd, Friday, a national day of fellowship and hope.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, accompanied by Vice President Albert Gore, Jr., the Speaker of the House, and Chairman Ford.
Then he joined the traditional lunch with congressional leaders in Statuary Hall. Then it was time for President Clinton's first motorcade to his new home at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. 3/4 of the way there, President Clinton and First Lady Hillary Clinton left their limousine to get closer to their enthusiastic well-wishers.
Now some analysis of the Clinton messages from this day of pageantry and words. It comes from Gergen and Shields, David Gergen, editor-at-large of U.S. News and World Report, syndicated columnist Mark Shields, plus Washington columnist Elizabeth Drew, New York Times columnist and former Nixon speechwriter William Safire, Peggy Noonan, speechwriter for both Presidents Bush and Reagan, and Bernice Regan, historian and curator of the Division of Community Life at the National Museum of American History. Bill Safire, how's Bill Clinton doing so far as President of the United States?
He made a good, solid opening speech. I would give it a B. Well, I'd give it a B plus because of delivery. He had a theme. You know, he was talking about renewal. He said renew 8 times, which sort of sends a signal that he's talking about renewal. And he also had a good central metaphor, which is the seasons. And that forced spring was a fascinating phrase. I called George Stephanopoulos, his communications man, at 1 o'clock, and I was the first call in. He said, you know, I can just see you move into your new office and you look at the phone and it doesn't ring, and you wait, and every minute's an hour. And finally it rings, and it's the New York Times calling saying, where do you get forced spring from? And so I'll have to check. So I got a call back saying it came from Father Tim Healy, the late educator, who sent some notes on it. And it fit nicely into the...
And he was president of Georgetown University. Of course, that's where President Clinton went to school.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So I like the seasonal idea. I like the renewal theme. And I especially like the length. It was a short, round speech.
14 minutes, 1,600 words. Ms. Regan, what did you think about this day for not only his speech, but the other matters as well for Bill Clinton?
I guess when I think of the speech, I actually think the 14 minutes was just one point of a speech that actually was dance and music and days long, and that there has been a real effort for the construction of a speech and an address and an opening that makes real some of the themes that people responded to when they voted for themselves. And I think of Clinton primarily as holding a space that represents effort for the electorate to elect itself for change.
So he said what he should have said, which is the same things he said in the campaign to become president of the United States.
If you loop the whole inaugural event together, he addressed what he should have addressed.
Mm-hmm. Elizabeth Drew, what kind of grade would you give him?
I would give him, if it's the speech, I would give him a B+. The day, I think, is an A. I think this is our best secular day in America. We kind of suspend judgment and even disbelief and even a little reality. I'd give him a B+ for him because it was no small achievement. It seems like a small point, but it was no small achievement that he did give a short speech. He had blown earlier major opportunities, and there had arisen the question of could he be disciplined about this. So it was about a larger point. Ms. Reagan is right. He picked up a lot of his campaign themes, and they're going to go right into how he governs, because these will be the themes of his presidency. He talked about opportunity and responsibility. Those were the themes of speeches he gave at Georgetown University over a year ago. He's a different kind of Democrat, he says in that. I'm not just going to give out welfare. People are going to have to get off welfare, this kind of thing. He talked about new competition in the world, that this is a different kind of world. So he showed that he was sort of a modern, post-war, new generation. The one thing that was new was he talked about sacrifice, and we will now have to see whether he means it. He had said in a pre-inaugural interview that even the middle class was going to have to sacrifice. He did the last point I would make is he did his Perot work. In other words, he needs more than the 43% of the people who supported him in the election. Perot had 19%. He's been going after those voters really since before the election. And the themes he stressed in the speech that were for them were reform, anti-Washington, we got to, give it back to the people, and cutting the deficit.
Peggy Noonan, how did you think he did today? What kind of day was this for him?
Oh, I thought he had a great day. I agree with Elizabeth. Inauguration Day is a lovely day. It's a lovely secular day. There's a great sweetness.
Secular in a political sense.
Yes.
It's okay for Republicans to be happy when a Democrat comes in, okay for Democrats when a Republican comes in.
Oh, definitely. It's always a day about democracy. It's a celebration. Implicit in all of this always is a great celebration of democracy.